Hello and welcome to this episode of
Here on the ground, change happens fast. Problems feel frequent and urgent. It's loud and anxiety runs high. From a satellite view, the Earth looks the same as it did thousands of years ago. We've been here before. Let's learn from our past and shoot for a better future.
Hello and welcome to this episode of A Satellite View. I'm Todd Mickelson, your host, speaking at you from Sunday, September 7th, 2025, in the space and time continuum. Full lunar eclipse tonight. If you've been feeling weird physically or mentally, that could have something to do with it. It's supposed to be very powerful, as people have believed for thousands and thousands of years. So, I am being called. Last night, I kind of had a crazy zone going on, and I think it was partially because of that. But also, I think I'm being really called to take it easy and spend more time by myself with nature. Not even by myself, but inward, and pay more attention to what's going on around me. Last weekend, I took the week off successfully. I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. We went to a very remote place, so remote that we did not have access to the internet, and I didn't care. And it was really good for me. It felt so good. It felt so revitalizing and refreshing and resetting. I brought a couple books. I didn't even read the books. I just sat on a deck and looked at a lake in a beautiful remote place in northern Minnesota. The old-fashioned Minnesota lake setting. It's a smaller lake. There's no assholes like on Lake Minnetonka who have boats that are too big and they don't know how to drive them, and they only drive them when they're drunk. It was absolutely... I couldn't believe it. I was a little worried driving up there thinking, okay, this is going to be boring. I'm not going to be able to handle this. Oh my God, it took 30 seconds to acclimate myself into being in phase again with nature, being alive on planet Earth. I did not open my computer. My laptop computer never came out of my bag. I didn't care. Like I said, I didn't even open the books. Day and night, we just sat and reveled in the atmosphere. And the weather was perfect. We were lucky in that regard. But anyway, pay attention to what's calling you. Pay attention to how you're feeling inside. Go inside yourself and notice how you're feeling. It's very important. Then throughout the week, I still kind of messed up, but last night I think I was like, okay, here's what I'm getting. I need to sit outside. Walk, be outside. So we all need to be careful because it's kind of aggravating what we're going through right now. We're all feeling like, why are we not changing this? Why are we letting Trump actually declare war on Chicago? Why is nobody doing anything about this? Well, I think things are going on behind the scenes. And I know I've been saying that for a while, but it feels stronger now. He was completely gone for a full week. What happened there? There are doctors speculating that maybe he had a procedure done, left ventricle aid, LVA something. And that requires then that fluid needs to be drained. Doctors are speculating that there's a liver issue where fluids need to be drained. Then when he came back on Wednesday, trying to distract from the Epstein survivors press conference, doing a flyover. I mean, how childish and petty. He's scared. He's very scared, and he's dying. I mean, we're all dying, right? But I mean, he's like dying. His press conference started an hour late. Nobody seemed to make a big deal out of that. What was going on? Why was he an hour late when the timing was sensitive? Anyway, okay, I'm going way into the weeds. I want to report on things that you may not have heard about. You have heard a lot about the Epstein files. The whole thing is not going away. I will play this for you. Somebody contradicting Trump and the Speaker of the House. This is Thomas Macy just this morning.
Morning, Congressman Massey. Let me begin with you and get your response to Speaker Johnson right there. He says you've been misled. He also suggested at one point this week, seemed to suggest that President Trump was an informant to the FBI about Jeffrey Epstein. Your reaction?
Well, they haven't been misled, and the Speaker's point that the victim's safety is compromised or privacy is false, because when we asked the survivors at our event, did they support the legislation that Ro Khanna and I have introduced, they all said yes. Now, I don't know if the Speaker misspoke when he said that Donald Trump was an informant. The lawyers for the victim said that Donald Trump had been helpful in 2009 in their case by giving them information, but being an informant implies some formal connection and ongoing relationship with the FBI. I don't know what that's all about. I think the Speaker needs to clarify that. And if it's a hoax, why was Donald Trump an informant to a hoax?
That's a very conservative Republican. I would not get along with this guy in normal life. But both he and Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's like, if I would have just seen how their behavior is this week, I would like them. I'd be like, hey, these are great Congress people. Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, contradictory to Donald Trump, I want to do a couple more things that you probably did hear about that. I mean, after all, it was on ABC News this morning. By the way, there are a couple more things that ABC News is actually reporting on, which is very interesting. CBS and NBC as well. Slight shifts going on in corporate media here in the United States, but still, here's something that you probably did not hear. On August 12th, 2025, Alner Masayev, probably pronouncing it wrong, but he was the former head of Kazakhstan's National Security Committee. He alleged that Russian President Vladimir Putin possesses a comprehensive compromat file on Donald J. Trump. He didn't suggest it. He stated it. The file, he said, is extensive, meticulously documented, and designed not to destroy Trump, but to control him. And of course, we have all witnessed that, yes, in fact, he is controlling him. That is an important official. Now, here's another thing that is being contradictory of Donald Trump. And this is actually, I've seen it from other places. This is the first time I'm seeing that actual mainstream media here in the United States is reporting this. Venezuela's communications minister, Freddy Nanez, is claiming a video of the U.S. striking a boat in the Caribbean is AI generated after President Trump said Tuesday that the U.S. military struck an apparent Venezuelan vessel carrying drugs. I'm sure you've heard about Trump striking this boat, and he says it was carrying drugs. Now, it's already illegal. It's in international waters. You've probably heard that as well. There's no due process. They didn't check it out. They just saw a boat and they shot it out of the waters. Well, did they? Venezuelan's communications minister says it's all BS. He said it looked like a cartoon. And why are there multiple angles? That's more like you would shoot a movie. Usually unclassified, like a drone footage would be shaky and, anyway, I am not saying that I think it's AI generated. I have no idea. But the fact that we cannot trust our Secretary of Defense, not Secretary of War, Secretary of Defense, or our President of the United States, and that I actually believe Venezuela's communications minister more than I believe our own government, is alarming in itself. So there are some contradictions coming from people in high up places in other governments in other countries. And I think we're going to be seeing more of that from some countries that we consider our allies. Trump doesn't, but we do consider allies. Speaking of AI, I don't know if you've heard about this footage of somebody throwing something out a window at the White House, which is really weird. And I saw the footage, and I don't think it's AI. It looks like two guys, I swear, are sitting on a bar that Heidi and I sat on a few years ago because we couldn't believe the great view of the White House from this bar where we got martinis. And when I paid for the martinis, they were $18 a piece. So, but we were up on this rooftop bar in D.C., and I could not believe the view that we had. This is before Trump was president. This is when Obama was still president. And so $18 a piece back then means like $18,000 now, right? So we had $18,000 martinis on this rooftop bar. But I swear to God, these guys shot it from that same vantage point that I remember having, and it looks real to me. And why would you make an AI-generated video of somebody throwing a garbage bag out of a window from the White House residence? I don't know. It looked like the size of maybe having a large diaper in it. Somebody felt the need to, if we're going to take care of this situation we're going through, because this is when he was absent. This is when he was completely absent for a full 7 days. And he has not said why at all. And those windows are not to be opened. Trump himself said it, and that's why he said, there's got to be AI generated. It's AI because you can't open those windows. Really, really weird stuff going on in our world right now, and this is what's so aggravating. It's like we are at or past the breaking point. Something's just gotta give. These are all the things that are going on. Here's another thing I want to point out before we go to break, and then when we come back, I'm going to talk about more things, both good and bad. A lot of it having to do with the war in Ukraine and the slight chance that our media is going to start accurately reporting on that because they're going to be forced to. But like I said, we'll talk about that when we come back. I want to stick this in real quick here. The information that's going to be revealed, we've all been warned that it's going to involve people that are going to surprise you. And I think this is part of it. You may not have heard of David Pakman and or Brian Taylor Cohen. Mostly I'll talk about David Pakman. Now, these are people that I have watched to get information, and they have good stories, truthful stories, but they also don't report on certain things, and they might selectively leave out parts of the truth when they are reporting. I actually kind of stopped watching both of them months ago now, a few months ago, shortly after the election, actually, and because it was just, they're not up to date as much as, like, say, the Midas Touch Network or other people that I watch. But these were, well, they still are, apparently progressive content creators is what they're calling it. But it's all about news, political news. And they have guests on. They've given good interviews. I've watched and listened to David Pakman. David Pakman was on the radio station that I was on over the last few years, AM 950. For years, I've listened to David Pakman. Brian Taylor Cohen only got up and running maybe 2 years ago. They started, especially Brian Taylor Cohen, started a thing called Chorus. And he announced, and I thought it was a good idea when he announced it, he said, we're trying to form a network of us, us progressive news people, because we can't trust the corporate news. We can't trust the mainstream media. So we want to have something behind it. We're going to have money backers. We're going to have, we're going to try and gain some power. We're going to do it kind of in the same way the Republicans have done it, because us Democrats need to start doing this because we're telling the truth and they're lying. And I thought, good. But apparently there were contracts signed where there was money coming in from, whatever it's called, the 532 or something. I don't know what it is, but you always hear people say, oh, it's money coming in on a 532 or blah, 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 blah. And that means they can't disclose who is contributing the money. It's dark money. Something that should have never existed, but now is existing even in the Brian Taylor Cohen world here of this thing called Chorus. But the worst part is there are contracts being signed that says if you take this money, and it's like $8,000 a month is what been reported that David Pakman's getting from this entity. Brian Taylor Cohen may be getting the same or more, I don't know. But that's a substantial amount of money. That's a living. Doing what I'm doing here. Except I'm not making any money doing this at the moment. Hopefully I will someday. I don't know. But these guys are making good livings doing this. But the contracts are saying if you take this money, you got to run everything you talk about through us first. You cannot talk about this. You can talk about this. You cannot talk about this. You can say this about this, but not this about this. And therefore, people have noticed that these guys, they don't really report on Gaza and the genocide going on in Gaza. Then it came out David Pakman actually took money from AIPAC. And then he went and made a video saying, people are accusing me of taking money from, I don't even know how to say AIPAC. And it's like, okay, you're just blatantly lying to us now. He's taken a fall. But he's somebody that I'm surprised. I'm surprised these guys are being revealed. I don't know, do you call that corrupt? I do. They're not being truthful with their audience. Somebody found this contract. But these guys are not revealing that contract. They're telling the person who found the contract, who wrote about it in an article, they're saying, okay, show us the contract, produce the contract. And she's saying, I wrote an article for a different entity, and it's up to them to release the contract. You go talk to them. This woman's name is Taylor Lorenz, and she wrote an article in Wired magazine. And that's what David Pakman is threatening to sue her. Who does that sound like? David Pakman is acting like Donald Trump right now. And he's somebody that I thought I liked. I was good. I mean, I kind of was moving away from him, and he always kind of gave me I don't really like him, but he does some good reporting, Well, surprising people are falling by the wayside, being taken down by the truth. And they're attacking Taylor Lorenz. Now, I want to talk about this overall just for another few moments. There are people that I get information from that you may or may not have heard me talk about. Kyle Kulinski, he's got a show called Secular Talk. He does kind of snarky reporting, but it's very interesting and it's very good. And he digs into a lot of things that you don't hear about, and he digs out information that you haven't heard before. And he makes a point of saying, I've been making a living doing this now for 12 or 13 years, and I have never once agreed even to have a conversation with anyone wanting to be my sponsor. I will not even take a meeting. I get the money to live on off of my supporters, the people who watch this, my audience, my members. You can sign up to be a member, and you can contribute to me on your own accord if you're a regular person. That's the only money I've ever taken. His wife, Crystal Ball is her name. It's her actual name, Crystal Ball. And they have a great show together called Crystal, Kyle, and Friends. And they interview people. And sometimes they just talk. Crystal Ball is so sharp. She's so intelligent, and she's great at debating with people. She's got her own thing as well, Breaking Points. You can find all this on YouTube. And these people put out great information. Also, you've probably heard me talk about Emma Vigeland. She's on a show with Sam Cedar, who I also very much like and trust. They have their show is called The Majority Report with Sam Cedar, and Emma Vigeland is his co-host. And she has now been asked to be guests on MSNBC multiple times and even on CNN. And they let her go. They let her spout. I'm very surprised. This is partially what's giving me some hope in even the mainstream corporate media. MSNBC is not putting a leash on Emma Vigeland when they have her on. And she is so sharp and articulate, and again, a great arguer, great at bringing up points. A lot of times I'll listen to these people and say, oh, good, I'm glad you brought that up. Oh, good, I'm glad you brought that up. But Emma Vigeland was just blowing my mind. It's like, oh, my God, I can't believe that where she went with that. That is so, I didn't even think of that, So these are really good people. And Sam Cedar and Emma Vigeland on their show Majority Report, they only let sponsors sponsor them if it's a product that they really believe in or they use or they think is good. They won't just take money from anybody, and they won't let anybody tell them what to say and not say. And I want to point out that people like AOC, she takes no lobbyist money. Also, my congressperson, Kelly Morrison, she takes no lobbyist money as well. She takes no corporate money, and she successfully became a congresswoman here in our red district. And even before that, she became a Minnesota House representative, the first ever in Minnesota who was a Democrat in a red district. And she didn't take a penny from corporate entities whatsoever. And she was successful. Then she became a Minnesota senator, and now she's in Washington, D.C. It is possible to do this without money. And even when the progressives bring money in, then all of a sudden they're not allowed to report about the genocide in Gaza because the money that they're getting wants to support Israel, the government of Israel, which, by the way, we'll talk more about what's going on in Israel and some other places when we come back. I've gone over time here now, but we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. And we're back on A Satellite View. If you like the music you hear here, go to toddmickelson.com and push the music button, and you can find this and other music I've written throughout the years. Go to our YouTube channel. Go to YouTube and search for Satellite View Podcast, and you can find our YouTube channel where you find the show in its entirety on video. Also, go to our website, satelliteviewpodcast.com, and sign up to be on our mailer. And follow me on Instagram at Todd Mickelson. Yeah, so hopefully we'll do a shorter segment here. Let's see if I can successfully do that. I am kind of sticking up for myself here by going overtime because I'm making up for that I took a week off. But I will do a short jobs report thing as well, but you may have already heard about that. Throw something in here that's very positive. You've heard me talk about CRISPR. It's CRISPR, CRISPR technology. CRISPR is a revolutionary gene editing technology derived from a bacterial immune system that enables scientists to precisely cut, modify, and replace DNA sequences within a genome. Okay, that sounds very scientific. It sounds kind of spacey. It sounds kind of future. It may even sound scary, but they are making breakthroughs that are astonishing. Just like this last week, they made a breakthrough on HIV, where they're pretty much eradicating HIV. If you get HIV, they can just get rid of it and actually enhance your cells to rebuild themselves in a healthy manner after being infected with HIV. They're making huge strides on pancreatic cancer. That's something my father died of. It sounds like they're working on eradicating cancer through CRISPR, and it's going faster than they think. Really good news coming out in science there. I also want to point out, in talking about the vote count, there was about 2 weeks ago in a district that was a plus Trump 11.5%. Okay, that means that Trump won by 11.5% in a House district in Iowa. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a special election, and the Democrat won by a long shot. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Democrats could never win there, and this Democrat won. I'll also remind you, in Wisconsin, there was astonishing special elections going on a few months ago, even though Elon Musk poured millions and millions of dollars in. I think it was something like $20 million into that election, and still the Democrat won. So in these elections, there's only one thing missing. It's not even the big money. The money is still there from the Republican side. Maybe not in Iowa, but in Wisconsin. The one thing missing is something that there are reports that Elon Musk brought to the 2024 presidential election. I have reported on this before. So even Elon Musk's money cannot win elections. And that's why the Republicans are trying to redraw the districts right now, because they know they cannot win. Joni Ernst, who is a senator in Iowa, she's not running for re-election. They were trying to prop her up to run for president about 10 or 8 years ago, if you remember. They had her do the rebuttal to the State of the Union, I think when Obama was still in. She was a rising star in the Republican Party, and she sees no path to win a statewide election. She thinks Iowa's going to be blue. She's retiring. That's what's going on. We're hearing about more and more Republicans who are not going to run for re-election, and it's because they know they cannot win. And all Republicans, including Donald Trump, know they cannot win elections. And Donald Trump and a lot of other Republicans know that they did not win the 2024 election. We are going to be finding out about that. I don't know exactly when, but I could talk about that for an hour alone. The Rockland County thing is rolling on. Everything in court is too slow, but the Rockland County, New York, where Kamala Harris got 0 votes, even though a lot of people said, I voted for her and I watched my ballot go through the machine. Listen to past podcasts of mine to get more details on all of that. But that win in Iowa is astonishing. The Department of War, Donald Trump renaming the Department of Defense the Department of War. It's just simply not going to happen. It would cost over $1 billion just to change the letterhead and all the stuff. And I just think it's going to be ignored. I don't know how far it's going to go. They changed a little plate outside of Pete Kegbreath's office. I think that's going to be the extent of it. Other than them just harping on, it's now called the Department of War. It's okay. I think that the military itself is beginning to ignore this motherfucker. By the way, he was heavily booed at the U.S. Open this morning, even though he told the broadcasters, don't cover me being booed. Okay, I don't know. He lives in a world where people don't have cell phones and cameras, and I don't know. So yeah, a lot of footage of that. I'm going down the list here, and I'm getting down to Ukraine and what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. All right? I have told you about some entities. Let me get in the right place here on my phone.
I'm always honest with you, so I cannot say that everything inside Russia is in decline. There is one thing that keeps growing and growing rapidly and confidently, and that is the Russian budget deficit. 4.9 trillion rubles during just the first 7 months of 2025. And this sum already exceeds the expectations of the Kremlin for the whole year of 2025. That is why the head of the Russian Central Bank, Nibulina, the Minister of Finance, the head of Sberbank are literally shouting at Putin's face about the problems, recession, stagnation, and this huge budget deficit, but he refuses to hear them.
So that is Anna from Ukraine. I've told you to go watch her. There's another really informative person who does reporting. His name is, I'm not going to pronounce it right, Denis Davyadov. It's Denys Davydov. Find him on YouTube. He does really intricate reporting on what's going on in the war between Ukraine and Russia. He is a pilot himself. He was in the military for a while. He also was in the largest airline. He was a pilot in the largest airline in Ukraine. He knows a lot about all of the war weapons and things like that. I got some information from a few different sources. In Ukraine, there was a rescue plan. There are 2 villages or towns or cities where there are Russian soldiers cut off from the front. They're not getting supplies. They haven't been for a while. The Russians sent a couple, like over 100 guys and a bunch of tanks to try and rescue those guys. But the Ukrainians knew about it, and they killed everybody in the rescue task force. And they burned all of the tanks. Over 100 Russian soldiers died. You know, we all hate violent death, but those Russian soldiers then in Ukraine, in those 2 cities, are still isolated and not getting supplies. How long can they last? There are guys in Russia figuring out the only way to survive. You can't get out of Russia anymore, so they sign up for the military. They get sent to Ukraine, and they find the first Ukrainian military entity they can find, and they surrender. That's their only way out of Russia in their minds. Anna has been doing a lot of reporting on the finances. She's the one who reported that right now, if you go to an ATM and you try and get your money out with your credit card, it'll say, no, we'll only let you take $10 out today. Or maybe you can't get anything out of here right now. Try back later. They're keeping your money. They're in dire straits. Putin cannot survive. He can't pay for the war. He also probably can't survive the war. And reporting earlier about how much compromise he's got on Donald Trump. Do you think Putin's going to go down alone? Speaking of world leaders going down alone, if you surpass 3.5% of your population who are protesting your leadership, if you're a dictator, dictators have been overthrown when 3.5% of their country starts to protest against them, starts to turn on them. That has happened now in Israel. The people of Israel are against the genocide in Gaza. The people in Israel are against Netanyahu. We'll see what happens. There are 3 leaders that are going down before our eyes. You can guess who the other one is. Another thing going on in Ukraine, they have these called Bayraktars. I always have trouble reporting on this stuff in Ukraine because I can't pronounce anybody's name or cities or anything, so I just leave the names out. This is a drone, a large drone that's very effective and lethal that Ukraine used for a while at the beginning of the war, but they're large, so they get easily spotted by radars. So Ukraine stopped using them. Well, now Ukraine has used their small little drones to go in and take out all the radars. Especially in Crimea, there's basically no radar system. So not only can Ukraine start sending in these large, very lethal drones again, these Bayraktars, but also it's making any missile launches that Russia is doing from Crimea basically blind. They don't know where to send the missiles. What else we have here? Russia fled from their Navy headquarters in Crimea. Anna says in another little piece where Crimea has been since 2014 when Russia first annexed Crimea, it's been a symbol of their victory in trying to take over Ukraine. Well, she said, pretty much starting at the beginning of August, it's become a symbol of their downfall. She doesn't even say their defeat. She's talking about the downfall of the Russian Federation. There's another expert, I don't have his name or anything, but there's another expert who last weekend said, I don't see Russia lasting through Wednesday. Denis Devyatov, he told both good and bad news. Okay, so the bad news is the Ukrainian ministry building was attacked and was on fire. Apparently nobody got hurt, though. There was nobody there. None of the leadership was in the building. We always hear when Russia does an attack, but we never hear when Ukraine does an attack. A lot of the missions that Russia is doing now, they're poorly supplied and they're poorly planned. The whole summer campaign that Trump was, he said, I'll give you 60 days at the beginning of the summer. That's because the summer campaign was supposed to finish the war for Russia's side. It's been a complete failure. So Denis Devyatov reports on that. He also then reports on the Flamingo missile, which again, Anna from Ukraine has reported on in the past as well. And they are now starting to use the Flamingo missiles, and they can fly 1,864 miles, almost 2,000 miles into Russia, and they can carry a 2,500-pound warhead. And they travel at a speed of something like 685 miles an hour, so they're very hard to shoot down. A lot of the drones and missiles that Russia shot into Ukraine yesterday or today were shot out of the sky before they could do any damage. These Flamingo missiles that started to be manufactured again, or for the first time in Ukraine, are now getting up and running. And they really can't be shot out of the sky. So really, the real news is, it seems like Russia is crumbling. But we don't hear that. You may not have heard that. Ukraine is kind of celebrating already. I mean, the people you saw, Anna, here, I just played it for you. She was maybe a little blurry because it was on my phone, but jobs, 22,000 jobs added in the U.S. economy in August. Biden was adding like 260,000, if you remember. Unemployment rate 4.3%. Slowest 4-month growth since 2020, when the pandemic was raging. Broader job loss rate jumps to 8.1%. There are now less jobs available than there are people who want the jobs. U.S. economy lost 13,000 jobs in June. That's an update. First negative month since December of 2020, when the pandemic was raging. Again, we did not gain any jobs in June. As a matter of fact, we lost 13,000 jobs in June. Also, unemployment rate for 16 to 24-year-old people is now at 10.5%. The unemployment rate for African Americans continues to rise. It's now 7.5% in August, highest in almost 4 years. And an astonishing 78,000 manufacturing jobs have been lost since Donald Trump started this second sham term of his. You can look at that as good or bad. I think we're going to recover from it pretty quick, but it's going to only be because we take Donald Trump down. He's got to no longer be president. And J.D. Vance is not going to, he can't replace him either. Now, again, go to past podcasts. You can get more about why I think this is possibly going to be true. Probably going to be true. I think it's absolutely going to be true. How do you feel? Did Donald Trump really win that election? You remember his campaign? Do you remember Kamala's campaign? Do you remember how you were feeling on election day when they were reporting, oh my God, the lines are, the people showing up to vote today are like we've never seen before? And then after the election, they said, I don't know, millions of people didn't show up. Tens of millions less people voted. Do you think that's what happened? How do you feel about it? Do you think Donald Trump won that election fair and square? I know how I feel about it. And I don't want you to trust how I feel about it or even listen to what I have to say about it. I want you to trust how you feel about it. That's where we're all going to be going. Now, I don't know if I covered everything I was going to or hoped to. There certainly was more to cover than what I did cover, but it's good to be back on the podcast. It was also great to take a week off and go sit by a lake. Please take care of yourself. This time that we're going through right now is maddening and aggravating. And don't let him bring your mood down. Take care of yourself. Do the things you love to do. Don't get too stuck into the news. I promise I will try and find these things, the things that you are not being told. I will try and report them as well as I can to you on this podcast once a week. And we'll also try and have some fun with it. But take care of yourself. Don't get too caught up in all of the news. Don't let yourself be aggravated by all of this BS that's going on. A lot of it is actually not going on. You know, it's just Trump saying it's going on. He wants to start a war in Venezuela because he wants to have a war so that he can call off elections. Well, part of what you need is the country that you're waging war on needs to at least admit that, oh, yeah, they started a war with us. Instead, Venezuela's going, what? No, I don't know of any boat getting what? No. Oh man, that looks fake to me. Didn't happen. You know, he tried it with Iran, and Iran was like, and then he stopped. I don't know. Don't get too upset by all of this BS. So many other, where's Elon? I don't know. So many other questions. What all is going on? Who might be cooperating with the good guys at this point? So much to ponder on. But again, take care of yourself. Do what you love to do. Let's keep each other sane. Let's keep each other strong. I will be here for you. I will be doing this every week unless I take a week off. I'm not going to do that for a while now, though, because I just did. But I will be here for you, and I want to thank you so much for being here with me. Thanks for listening to this week, and I will speak at you next week.
You've been listening to A Satellite View with Todd Mickelson. Go to toddmickelson.com for links and more information.